Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to yet another video. Today we're looking at a single tip to increase your rating exponentially. This tip is more for classical and rapid time controls, but maybe it's still interesting. And the tip is, take your time in the openings. Do not just blitz out your opening in 5 seconds. We're going to start off this tip with me showing a game played between two 1100s, which is still high rated, and you will see why it's important to think. Just think a little bit, spend some time in the opening. So d4, d5, and we get a London. This triangle, the bishop, it's just a typical London. So white brings out to attack their queen, attacking the b7 pawn. It's very common. You can even gambit that pawn away, but rook b8 is like the most classical move. Knight a5 is also a move. Instead, black thinks for 8 seconds and plays b6. Now b6 completely loses the game. And basically the game is lost in 6 moves. Because the bishop comes here, the queen defends, and queen a4. And there's no way to guard the knight. Your rook is going to be hanging on the check. The position is completely lost. So just because of a mistake that could have been figured out if you spent 10 more seconds, 15 more seconds, or just calculated what would happen if b6 would be played in the position here, black lost the game and therefore lost rating points. Now, on the contrary, we're going to be looking at a game where time was spent thinking in the opening. This was a game played by me. Well, not necessarily a lot of time, but even just a little bit of time understanding the concepts and the dynamics that are needed in the position. I'm not saying I do it all the time. Even I sometimes pre-move the opening in 5 seconds and find myself in a losing position. But even sometimes I try to, okay, we're going to think for 10 seconds and then we're going to play a move. So d4, we have a London. Again, you know, this is typical on the c5, c3, bishop retreats. You always take with the e-pawn because in case of castling you want to have an open center. Knight develops, and here my opponent castles. And of course, there's I could have pre-moved basically queen c2, long castles, maybe h3 so the knight doesn't come to trade, bishop g3, you know, there's so many different options. Look at the Greek gift, but instead I went to h4, which is, I left the arrows on purpose, which is the best engine move. Because if you think a little bit, your king is in no danger, but black's king is already, you know, it already decided where it wants to go. I can go queenside castle, I can kingside castle, I have options open, and black can't get to my king. So my attack of going h4, h5, knight e5, g4 is a lot stronger than just making a waiting move, long castling, and then attacking. And my opponent instantly made a mistake because he was maybe surprised by this move. h5, it's a mistake because it creates a hook. And again, you can identify this pattern here. You can see, okay, the queen's attacking, but the knight. So knight e5, not the most forcing move, but my idea is also clear. Again, I thought a little bit in the opening. I want to go g4. Maybe if he takes, I will take. He can't take the knight because I will take on the h5. He went b6, and now the evaluation is through the roof. Again, yes, queen e2. The idea of queen e2, long castles. Again, I'm spending a bit of time here thinking, I know I'm better, what is the best move? Bishop b6, long castles, and he takes the knight. And I recapture. I already have an idea that h5, I'm looking at the h5 pawn. I'm going to march g4, I'm going to march g5. I'm moving away the knight. I take the h5 pawn, now I'm a pawn up. And tragically here my opponent blunders mate. But anyhow, this all happened because I spent a few seconds and I was like, okay, now is the best time to play h4. I don't need to develop more pieces. h4 is good now, my king is safe. Basically, this leads into spend some time in the opening. You know, we can always pre-move the opening especially if it's a London system. We can always just develop pieces. But sometimes there are more forcing moves, like h4 was in the previous game. Or sometimes you have to spend just a bit more time thinking about what does my opponent want in the first game? Do they have a threat? Do they have a check that wins a piece? Did I just hang my pawn? You know, just spend a little bit more time in the opening, even if it's 10 seconds. Because if you get out with a better position, then in the long run, your opponent's going to spend more time trying to defend himself in the middle game and the end game. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and subscribe.